Hi, middle school smile teachers. It's Jay coming to you from sunny Corvallis, Oregon. Excited for the workshop coming up, and we're going to have a lot of fun going over some content, getting to see you all, and talking about uh, all the excitement we're going to have in this upcoming year. I wanted to do this video to kind of give you a brief overview of the emergent occupations lesson that we'll be going over. This gives you an opportunity to kind of get a sense by watching this video of what the lesson is about. It's going to be short, so don't worry about spending too much time on here, but then getting to read through it, and after that, bringing your questions to the content session, because we're not going to have as much time together just because we don't want you to stay on Zoom for so long during the content sessions. So I'm going to give you this brief overview. Now, this is part of our systems thinking units. We have been working with industrial manufacturing engineering students for a number of years now, and they have been creating a variety of systems thinking lessons that sort of range from very, very basic to much more complex. Now, this was one that was created at the end of last year as part of the last group who you saw at the Winter Teacher Workshop. They completed this lesson, and this is around the emergent occupations mission to Mars. And in this lesson, as you can see here, students are given a scenario where they're going to be sent to start a colony on Mars. And each of these students has a unique skill set through their occupation. And we provide some cards to present those occupations to students, or students could choose their own occupations if they have a good understanding of the skill sets that are within those occupations. And it gives them an opportunity to learn about that occupation and start to thinking about what does a person in that occupation do, and then starts talking about making a system between different occupations. Because even when we think about occupations and we think about them as unique, such as a teacher needs an infrastructure around them in order to be able to do what they do. Just like all the different occupations within this lesson do. So they're going to look at and sort of discover on their own of how different occupations can come together to create a system that allows them to be more successful, and in some ways allows them to have new skills when they work together. So the goal of this exercise is to show students that people can be more effective if they work together within the system. And when you're going to somewhere isolated like Mars, it's this system that is going to be imperative to having a successful colony. So over the lesson, this is the same lesson format that we've been using for a while, and this is the format that all of our systems thinking lessons have been in. The look is a little bit different. We've updated the look, but it has all the same elements. And when you're looking at the different system thinking models, you can start to see how they all connect together. And we're going to be working on, over the coming year, a whole website sort of devoted to systems thinking and putting all the lessons in one place and having progressions of these lessons. Because I think a lot of these lessons can be done on their own or together, but they work really well when they're connected to other content that you're teaching, sort of as an insertion unit. So I think by creating that website, it'll be easier for you to be able to access them and figure out where they best fit in for your teaching. So there's a whole bunch of content background here on systems thinking. We've been using the DSRP here, distinctions, systems, relationships, and perspectives. And this specific lesson is going to be on the system side of things. We have lessons from last year that are part of distinctions, relationships, and perspectives as well. And you've seen 2 of those already from the winter workshop, and this is the 3rd one, and we'll also have a 4th one that we'll make available on our website. really, there's, when this was created, we were thinking that we were going to be doing face-to-face instruction, so print copies of the worksheet and divide the room in such a way. In many cases, you may want to do this as part of distance learning or in a hybrid classroom. And there's definitely opportunities to do this, especially if students can have discussions, say over Zoom. Breaking students, I can see where instead of dividing the room, you could actually create breakout rooms where individuals of different occupations get together and sort of discuss their skill sets and how they can work together. So I think this lesson, there's no component to it that requires face-to-face instruction. And so that's one of the reasons why we're presenting today, because it is an easier one to adapt to distance learning. There's a PowerPoint presentation, as well as the cards, this lesson plan, over on our website under resources, right next to where you got this video. So there's kind of, 4 basic parts here. One is the introduction. It's pretty self-explanatory. The other one is where the students are exploring their own personal occupation and what those skills are, and thinking about them in relation to this trip to Mars, and then having them pair up and talking about learning about the other occupation and talking about how they could, how their skills work together to start to form this system. And then there's opportunities for them to think about and discuss how pairs can come together. So you have 2 occupations and you have another 2 coming together, and creating a larger system and seeing how much more that they'll be able to accomplish on this colony of Mars when they all work together. So let's look a little bit at the occupations that we put together. And again, these are just some occupations with some very basic information with them. If students wanted to think about other occupations and add them in, that definitely fits. And so that could be an extension that you could provide here. So we have a dentist. And again, these are really generalized skills. What we want the students to do is to think about each of these, and when they're going through that personal skill set, they kind of use these as a starting place. And here they could use technology to look in more depth of what do dentists do and what can they do, and why would they be important on Mars. Usually when, if I was planning a trip to Mars, a dentist wouldn't be the first thing I would think of. But if you've ever seen the movie Castaway, Tom Hanks probably really wish he had a dentist during that movie. So students, again, you're sort of thinking about these maybe aren't the first occupations that come to mind, where a civil engineer, somebody who's going to set up some sort of infrastructure, would definitely be somebody I would be thinking about, yeah, this is an important person to bring to Mars. So we have a civil engineer, we have an industrial engineer. Remember, all of our students are industrial engineering students. One of their goals always is to get young people to think about what an industrial engineer is. It's not an engineering that most students know about until they go to college and they learn, in their pre-engineering classes of what an industrial engineer does. But industrial engineers are pretty much in all different industries and are very important. So they put industrial engineer in there. Plant biologist. This is, I think, a nod of the hat to The Martian. If you've read that book or seen the movie, the plant biologist is sort of the hero of that show. And then an environmental engineer, and finally a geologist. So these are the occupations that we have. Again, they're going to go through those and look at them personally, and then they're going to pair up and see what types of systems emerge when they work together. And I'll give an example here real quick. So let's go back to the dentist. Now, a dentist does a whole bunch of oral health, but what happens if something breaks, or what building are they doing this in? How do they power their tools? All of these things that support the infrastructure that supports a dentist is something that the dentist doesn't have necessarily skills to do. That dentist has skills specifically for oral health. And so they could take in to the civil engineer, designing structures, cities and systems to help provide that base infrastructure for the dentist to do their work. You have your industrial engineer, thinking about industrial engineers work a lot in healthcare to try to make healthcare more efficient and effective. And so that could be something. It could be that there's only one dentist on all of Mars, and there's many people living on Mars. So an industrial engineer could help make that process more efficient. Plant biologist may be more difficult to connect, but maybe that plant biologist is helping to produce some of the things that the dentist uses, either to provide fillings or provide some of the anesthesia. Who knows how that plant biologist could be part of that. But the goal here is to have students think creatively about that and get a sense of how these people come together to create a system that makes the colony work. The next step is to have these pairs actually pairs meet up with other pairs and talk about that. And that could be done through Zoom. But if you are in an in-person class or a hybrid class, providing space enough for students to be able to have those discussions at distance would also work. So that's the basics of this lesson. There is some discussion questions that sort of sum it up. It's a good introductory lesson to understanding the power of systems and why we should start thinking, using more system ways of thinking to solve problems. And I look forward to working with you on this session. And please look it over. If you have any questions, bring them to the content session, and I look forward to seeing you all very soon.